Hi, welcome back. Um, the, almost everybody's here. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Could everybody put on your cameras, please? Thank you so much.
Eyes tell me, what are you dreaming?
I hear music. I like that. I like music. Um, I sent out. I'm not, as you found, I'm not technologically capable. But I tried my very best to send out. It ended up being 3 videos for practice today, this past week. And I'm guessing you all got them. And did you have a chance to practice them? And no? Yes? Some? Yes? No? Feedback. I need feedback. Yes, you have. Yes, you practiced them, or no, you did not practice them. All right, I'll save them for next week. It's just all finger spelling. It's random words and then random sentences. But I'll save that for next week. Very quickly, I wanted to give you a brief history of ASL. If you go into, let me back up. This is the sign for let me back up. Let me back up. Feel free to jump in and sign while I'm signing also, the same thing, just so I see. If you, I'm sorry, your emails this week were just so pleasurable. I enjoyed reading about you and your lives and your goals and some things. But a few of you said that you thought you would finish this course, this class, and have any degree of fluency. You will not have any degree of fluency when you finish this class. It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just a stepping stone. But if you're interested, it'll pique your interest and it'll keep you interested in it. And it really is an interesting, fun language. So I hope you will continue to study it and pursue this later in life. And maybe some people mention even becoming an interpreter. That's the correct terminology, by the way, not translator. And I've been an interpreter for 40 years, and it has been a spectacular career. So keep that in mind. Okay, the history of ASL goes back to the history of deaf people. All over the world, in every situation, in every culture, in every time, there's always been deaf people who are born without the ability to hear. And for most of history, they were shunned and killed sometimes, and put in an attic and just taken care of and treated as a mentally retarded person for many, 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 many years. They were institutionalized. They were put in institutions with mentally retarded people for many years. And things were really tough for deaf people. And like the best scenario for a deaf person for a long time would be you just lived as part of your family and your family took care of you, and you lived on a farm and you had somebody taking care of you, and that was your best scenario. Like the idea of a deaf scholarly person, a deaf educated person, was out of the question. There was no such thing as deaf education for a very long time. So the first thing that was a landmark for deaf people was a man named Charles Michel de la Paix. He was a French guy. And he was the first one who said, deaf people can be educated and there is a way to communicate with them, and it's using sign language, it's using your hands, it's using a visual language, a language, a full language, a complete language, but that is completely visual and 0% spoken or auditory. That was around the 1700s. He was the first one who thought about, okay, maybe we can educate deaf people. One of the deaf people he educated was a man named Laurent Clerc, Clerc. These are French names. He was, this is his name sign, by the way, if it ever comes up. So he was a deaf person in France, and in America, there was a man also very interested in educating deaf people, and his name was Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet. Has anybody heard the last name Gallaudet? Has anybody heard that name? No? Okay. In Washington, D.C., there's a Gallaudet University, and it's the only university in the world for deaf people. He went over to France and started studying their methods, and he brought Laurent Clerc back to the United States, and he taught Laurent Clerc English, and Laurent Clerc taught Gallaudet French Sign Language. And when they got to America, they established the first school for the deaf in America, called the American School for the Deaf, in Hartford, Connecticut. And it still exists, and it's still kind of a big famous school for the deaf. So they brought French Sign Language into America, and that's what changed into American Sign Language with time. But understand that even when sign language is more officially recognized and officially put down in records, in this case, a lot of times it was video, early video of sign language, because they didn't have any other way to record it and preserve it. Where's that going? So they, Charles Laurent Clerc and Gallaudet came to America, established the American School for the Deaf. The second school for the deaf was Philadelphia School for the Deaf, and it became these schools for the deaf became hubs of where deaf people got together and socialized and met each other and learned each other's language and learned each other's culture and learned each other's everything. That's in schools for the deaf is where it all happened. But think about it, kids don't go to school till they're 4 or 5, so that's a lot of wasted time if a deaf child is not getting language. Okay. And the other thing I was going to say was that even when sign language was more recognized, there were still people living in Kansas and living in very rural areas that did not have access or knowledge of anything, what was going on in Washington, D.C. or Hartford, Connecticut. And so it took a long time to reach what's called grassroots deaf people who just didn't have any opportunity to socialize maybe with other deaf people, or maybe if they did, it was 1 or 2. And that's all they had in there. That's all they ever knew in their life, is one or two deaf people. I think that's all I want to say about the history of it. Any questions about the history of sign language or the history of ASL? Okay, excellent. If you did have an opportunity to watch the tapes that I sent out, one of the things that I sent out was that I'm going to do this a whole lot less and this a whole lot more. So I'll speak when I need to. I would like to go back to the white book, the grammar book, page 34. I feel like I didn't give this really the time it deserves last week. This idea of lexicalized finger spelling. Oh, Alexa, I have an Alexa. I didn't like that. This list is a pretty good list. These are signs that are finger spelled that have actually become signs. And so let's practice the whole list. With one word of explanation. Your goal is to sign accurately, not quickly. In time, you will develop speed in your signing and in your finger spelling, but it's really crucially important that you get the signs down right before you apply any kind of speed to that. So, so again, these are finger spelled signs that have finger spelled words that have become signs. For example, air. There's no I really. It's just it's more like AR, and you're moving to the right. Air. All can be done to incorporate however you're setting something up in sign. If you're saying all of you, it's ALL, and you just do all in a circle to incorporate all of you, like pointing to all of you. But it can also, it's all right. I'll just leave it at that. That's the apartment, APT, really kind of fast. Back, you actually pull your hand back as your finger spelling it. Back. Practice, please. There is no sign for bank. There's only the finger spelled loan sign, and that is sign pretty quickly, bank. There's no A, B-A-N-K, B-N-K. To the bank. There's a little hand twist to it, or hand flip to it. Bank. Beach. It's kind of just B and CH. Burn, burn. It's you're flipping your hands around, and you can do it also where the burn is. If you burn your arm, you would sign burn. Bus, there's no U, it's just BS. Busy, busy is just BY. Car is just CR. Car. Club is CLB. Club, there's no U. Cool is, I guess there's two O's, but it's just done so quickly. Cool. And this is the sign for cool. This is the sign for cool. Awesome, cool, neat, neato, boss. What else? Another word for that. But very, 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 very often deaf people will sign cool also. That's really cool. Department. What am I doing? I guess I'm just doing not an E. I'm doing DPT. Did understand that that's totally an English sign, and if somebody signs did, they're going to sign English to you. Did and do, same thing. But next one, this is do. That's a very, very common sign in English, in sign language. Okay, I'm going to leave right there. Dog does not have a G, but you slap your thigh as if you're kind of calling your dog. So, dog, dog. EG and slap your knee. Early has a arcing motion to it. Early. That's my TV. Fix does not have an I, it's just FX. Same thing with gas. No A. Ha is different. It's basically the sign for 13, kind of, sort of. And people use it like ha 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 ha. Oh, that was great. That was funny. Kind of in the sarcastic kind of way. That's a sign for sarcastic or ironic. Sarcastic. I like that song. Where are we? Ha 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 ha. Hurt. You're only doing the H and the T, and it's also you can localize it. Like if you hurt something on your arm, you do hurt here, or hurt wherever you hurt. Job is just JB, and that's it. There is no, well, this is a sign for work. But to say I have a job, specifically a job, as in I go to this job every day, and there's only one sign for it, and that's job, JB. NG, no good. Deaf people use the sign a lot to just say whatever, it's no good. NG. Growing up, my sister loved to say, too bad. Too bad. his TV. Ref is talking about referee. The ref. Veg. This is a sign for vegetable. Vegetable. Fruit with an F. Vegetable. But a lot of times people just spell veg. What? You see that a lot. That people sign start with a W and end with a T and twist in between. What? 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 And often the old thing spell also when, and it's just W N. These less signs, these question word signs are done with a question word facial expression, which we'll talk about later today. But if you're asking a WH question, who, what, when, where, how, why, that is eyebrows down. Okay. Why, when, what, eyebrows down. And also tilt forward a little bit. Eyebrows down, tilt forward, lean into the question a little bit. Why? Okay, but that's next on the list. This is the sign for why. Y, W, and ends in a Y. But a lot of times you'll see Y, the finger spell, and it's just a WY. Wow, wow. Also, there's a sign for wow. Anybody know? It's a pun, a signed pun. Anybody? Wow. W, and there's your O in the middle. W. Wow. But also you can just do wow if you're an adult. And yes, for whatever reason, deaf people do shake their head yes all the time when they mean yes, but they also can sign yes. But for whatever reason, deaf people finger spell yes very, 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 very often. Doesn't mean anything different. It's just finger spelled instead of signed. Okay. Were there any numbers at all about the alphabet or numbers going up to 1,000,000? Questions? Well, you guys are good. Okay, I'm going to jump to page 37. I need feedback. I need you to shake your head yes or no. I'm going to say that means you don't understand. There's a question. What was the question?
So when you're doing the numbers, during part of it, it looked like you're doing first time, second time, third time a little bit.
Turn up my phone. Repeat that, please. I heard somebody say something. Please repeat.
When I say it again.
When you're doing the numbers, that looks like what it is for when like first, second, third, etc. Kind of like that's what I think the numbers might have been, possibly.
I'm sorry. I need you to come closer to the mic. I just really can't hear what you just said. You said you're doing the numbers.
So when you were doing the numbers, it kind of looked like you might have been doing, correct me if I'm wrong, but like first, second, third, fourth, I think you went up to like 15th maybe. I lost track after that. Anyway.
Right. I was doing first, second, and twisting the hand like that. You can only go up through ninth. Okay. After that, you have to do whatever the number is, and then TH. Okay, let me speak a little bit towards what I'm saying. Another kind of ordinal numbers is like you would show the order in a race. That's what the sign is, race. Race. If that was the case, you would not sign the horse. This is a sign for a horse. Horse. The horse came in first, second, or third. No. The horse came in first, second, third. Okay, so that's another different way to show order. Yeah. Page 38. I'm going to use my voice again for a second. I'm sorry. I'm on a medicine that makes me very thirsty, so that's why I drink a lot. Okay. I am on page 4. It's really hard to see with this blue, but I'm going to say 4, where it says hand shapes. In order to talk about American Sign Language, linguists have come up with 5 different parameters, different ways of describing signs, so that you can talk about them. You can say, what's the difference between this sign and this sign that are signed very, very close or very, very similarly. For example, like, don't like. What's the difference between those 2 signs? So they came up with 5 parameters, and these are important for you to know for American Sign Language. These are the real foundation of American Sign Language. The 5 parameters are hand shape. That is to say, for this particular sign, what is the hand shape? What's the difference? For example, you haven't learned it yet, but you'll find out that this is a sign for white, a full hand. Okay, and this is a sign for like. What's the difference? Hand shape is the difference. The rest of the sign is exactly the same. It's done in the same location, in the front of my chest, and it's done with the same movement, me pulling my hand forward, but there's a different hand shape. And the second one is palm orientation. Which way is your palm facing? And it's just that's all it means. And it's a very important way of distinguishing between one sign and another sign. The third is location. Where on your body, usually really close to your body, do you sign it? And if not, then why are you signing it someplace else? And what does it mean when you're signing it someplace else? Chances are it means something. The fourth parameter is movement. What do you do with your hand when you finally get your hand? And the fifth parameter is facial expression, facial grammar, non-manual markers, non-manual signals. It's got a bunch of different names. But facial expressions is just fine. But you need to understand there's a difference between, in ASL, there are two things that are done on your face: facial grammar and facial expression. Facial expression is just saying, if you are sounding sad, are you showing sad? That's inconsistent. That doesn't apply. There's something wrong with that. If you're smiling and happy and signing sad, it has to all go together. It has to be or happy, whatever, or whatever your emotion has to, whatever emotion is that you're signing, it has to be consistent. So that's facial expression. I just recently gave you an example of facial grammar, and that was with questions. Though that is eyebrows down and body tilted forward to make a WH question. That's actually grammar in ASL. That's how they do it, as opposed to word order or any other way a language has of distinguishing grammar. ASL has to do it in a visual way. So that's how grammar is done. It's done on a person's face, and it means something very specific. A WH, not a WH, but a yes, no question is eyebrows up and body tilted in. So if I were to say, this is a sign for deaf, deaf, deaf. There is no sign for R. So I would just say deaf. But with my eyebrows up the whole time, it means I'm asking a yes, no question. A question which the answer is yes or no. Are you deaf? Are you hearing? This is a sign for hearing. Deaf, hearing, as opposed to a statement, you are deaf. It says nothing going on my face, no grammar. That's a statement. Okay, we're going to talk a whole lot about all the rest of this as time goes on, but I just wanted to introduce it to you. Also on page, I don't know, can't see. I don't know. The next page, I don't know what it is. There's a picture of a woman doing a bunch of frequent, common facial expressions in American Sign Language. And they have specific meaning. If you're showing a small mouth, a small, yeah, okay. Yes, page 8 in the red book. If you want to show that something is really small or that there's a tiny amount of something, have to show that in your mouth. The next one, medium. There's about that much in there. Okay, this is not just any old thing I'm doing with my mouth. This is facial grammar. This is the language that you have to use when you sign. Medium, medium, medium. Deaf people actually will make a sound very often, cha, and sometimes they'll scream it at the top of their lungs, cha, because it means really big. Cha, cha. I was just driving along and I just saw a lake and it was huge. I was driving along, and there was water. I don't think deaf people use it at all, but a lot of interpreters, I don't know why, they just use the sign Chawhead. Chawhead. He's a big head. He's got a big head for his. She has a big head for whatever reason. They call her a Chawhead. I don't know. Maybe that's only an interpreter thing. I'm not sure. Okay, I want to hold off where it talks about sentence structure. Again, any questions about the alphabet or the numbers? Any question about the vocabulary signs that we went over last week? All right, check that out. I love it. Would you like me to review them or should I just move on? Consensus?
Yes. The consensus is yes, we should review them.
Okay, yeah, okay, works for me. All right, let's start with after the numbers. So 25, page 25. There's a little flick right at the end. What does this mean exactly?
Help me. Help you.
Right. It incorporates both pronouns. I help you. Eyebrows up if you want. If it's a yes or no question, do you want? And for whatever reason, doing it one time is more forceful, and doing it more than once waters it down. So need and must, but should and ought to are done twice. Should and ought to are done twice. Must can be done forcefully if you really mean it. Oh, I missed bathroom. Practice me is wrong your name. Good. Oh, you've been practicing. Oh, good. I like that. I missed your top. You were. This is a sign for understand. And with my eyebrows up, it's a yes or no question. No. Beautiful. In American Sign Language, WH question signs come last, which is not how we do it in English, obviously. So what I was saying is that woman in the blue dress, who is that? How you would do that is not a question. Woman, we'll get to it. Dress. Okay, so woman, dress, blue, not a question, all not a question, all no facial grammar. It becomes a question with a sign who, and then you require facial grammar. So that woman, dress, blue. Who? Just to let you know, there is an alternate but pretty old-fashioned sign, who. Who. And I would say, it's often used in a different register. It's often used more formally than who. If I were signing something very, very formal, very like for the president, I might be more inclined to sign who as opposed to who. If it ever came up, I would sign who just as a more formal sign. Just several signs for what? I already showed you one. Anybody remember it? Is the finger spelled bone sign that we exactly what? Start off with a W, do a hand twist, and you end up with a T. And that's all there is to it. There's no H, there's no A. What? What? That's one. There's actually a sign. What? 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 What's this coming across from? What? Everybody do it so I know you're doing it right, because I'm not sure I'm. Okay, good. It's coming across. All right. Right. And what they're showing you here is also a very, 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 very common ASL sign. Also, almost always last. Put the last what is that food? How am I doing on time, Leslie?
We got about 20 minutes left.
All right, thank you, dear. When I also showed you as a finger spelled bone sign, it's just WN, when, but a hand twist in between. If you want to do the sign for it, it's like you're doing a little sign, like you're doing a little outline of a clock on your finger. When. But again, it's in position final in American Sign Language. So it would be your surprise birthday party when? When is your surprise birthday party? Where it's like you're pointing at two different locations in space and alternating, was it this location or that location? Where? Again, just like all WH, it is eyebrows down when it happens, and it is in position final position in a sentence in American Sign Language. So you would say, you live where? You live, no question. Where starts the question, and that's where you start with your eyebrows. Why? I already showed you. All right. Have you been to a why? And which is you're alternating two different choices. And which, honestly, deaf people don't use this sign hardly ever. And the last one doesn't make any sense at all, is how. You start with your fingers in, all your fingers in, and then you flip them around. How? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to go just a little bit further because I already showed you most of these signs. Deaf. And this is the sign. It's generally accepted across the board. But there's another sign that means ears closed. Ears closed. And again, it's a more formal sign. If I were in a formal situation, I can't think of an award ceremony for a deaf person or something like that, I might say, and they're winning their award for Deaf Citizen of the Year. I might, because it's formal and it's very, very high register and everything is very, very formal. That's the way deaf people sign it. They use a few different signs. It's just a few that show formality. ASL is generally a very informal sign language, and you can just sign and worry about it. Hearing, I don't know why. It would seem like they could come up with a sign that would be more visual, but that's the sign for hearing. Text. Now I'm going to mess it up. It's really close to video game. And I don't play video games, and so I don't know. Deaf people would know much better. There's a distinction between text and video game, but both signs are really seriously close together. I'm not really even sure what the difference is. Context. Email I showed you last week. Email, and that means to email to you. I email you. He's using, the guy in the book is using his full hand. A lot of people do that too. Use one finger with full, or for 4 fingers. And that's where I want to stop. I don't want to get into days and times. Are there any questions? No. All right. I love it. I don't. Second. Yeah, I don't have any homework for you. Just review both books. But I would like to talk a little bit about an oral project for later on. Find it. Does anybody have any idea of what? Okay. When I talk about an oral report, I mean just that, not a written report. Although you can write stuff if you'd like to help you do your oral report, but I would like you to do a very, very quick, a couple of minutes oral report on some aspect of deaf culture that you might find interesting. It's an interesting subculture, a very, very unique subculture within our larger culture, and that makes it an interesting situation all by itself. Just the fact that let's say there's no deaf homeland, there's no place that deaf people can say that's our nation, that's where we come from, that's our homeland. We don't have it. They don't have anything like that, and they really miss it. A lot of deaf people would like to have something like that. So let me know if there's anything that you already are interested in, but some topics that I wrote down just to get you thinking are Gallaudet University, residential schools, and how those are different than regular, deaf or what's called silent clubs, if you're into history, Laurent Claire or Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet, deaf humor, the World Federation of the Deaf, various deaf religious resources, I put down on my list stop the music / signing music. But that's actually a topic that I'm going to deal with because I have a whole lot of experience with it, and I've got some opinions, and I'd like to start a discussion about it. Some other ideas are the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, technology like a TDD or TTY or VRI or VRS. I know you don't know what any of those initials mean, but I can help you find out. the National Association of the Deaf. And we could have a discussion on big D versus little d deaf. I don't know if anybody has noticed, but sometimes if you see magazine articles or books or anything, something like that, things, sometimes the word deaf is small d, and sometimes the word deaf is capital D, and they have different meanings. So it's interesting to get into that discussion about what the difference is. Yes, I will email that list. Be happy to email that list. And I'm not sure, again, I'm not sure when this class is going to end. So I'm not sure when I'm going to say this is going to be due, but it's certainly, I'm going to say not before Thanksgiving. So if there's anything that stuck out in your mind right there about anything you would like to explore a little bit more, let me know. And if not, let me know that too. That was just a partial list. There's a whole big list of things having to do with deaf culture. I didn't even get into deaf sports. So I didn't even touch deaf sports, and that's huge, huge in the deaf culture. So that's something certainly that we could talk about. There's certainly a lot more. So if there's anything, I hope there was something there that maybe piqued your interest and you would like to learn more about. And I'm serious, this is not any kind of major project in your life. This is notes and put together a 3-minute presentation just so people in your group here could know about what it is that you know about. So if you do, let's say, RID, the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, just do a few points, and then so that your classmates know what RID means and how it works. Any questions? You've been a fabulous class. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And there's no homework for today other than just review and study and practice. All right.